Now, you should be able to make a program that will read a student's first name and their last name and their T number and the major from an input file, and then output that information to both the screen and an output file. Well, I already created an input file, and it's called student, and I created Silly Sally, and I gave her a T number, and her major's computer science. And Joe Judge, and I gave him a T number, and information technology is his major. And Kathy Cambridge and David Dodge. I made these up, obviously, and with Notepad, and then I copied and pasted that file in here called student, okay? And that is my input file. All right, so first we want to create an output file variable called output. So try it on your own. Can you create an output file variable called output if I ask you to? Try it now and see if you can create it. Here it is. OF stream output. We called it output, so that's our variable. Output's our variable, and it's an output file, so it's OF stream, output file stream. So this works with that header file. It comes with it, right? This F stream lets us use files, and one of the functions inside that is this output file stream. And we've got our variable name output file stream output. Okay, so we got that. Now, open a file for output called info.txt. So now that you created this output file stream variable, right, you declared it right here. So now we've created that output file variable called output. Now we want to open it. How do we open it? And we're going to open info.txt. So we're going to name our output file info.txt. So what would it look like if you did that? You need to try it. Type it in underneath that instruction. Have you tried? This is good for you. Guessing is good. All right. So let's see if we can see what it is. Output.open parentheses quote info.txt close quote close parentheses, and of course your semicolon. All right, so now we've got our output file ready, but what do we need now? Can you guess? Well, we need an input file, but here's a little thing you may not know. iOS : app semicolon. This code will append any new output to the end of the output file. So if you were to add more information, then you could do that. Okay, so you could append it. That means add to it. All right, please note, we do not need to check to see if the output file was found. It is created by the system, okay? So we don't need to see if it's already created and they're waiting for this program to find it, because it's going to create it all by itself. So the output file, when you tell it the name info.txt, that will be created on its own. Info.txt is created on its own. You don't have to create that. Create an input file variable called input. Okay, we did the output file variable called output. Now we want an input file variable called input. Can you do it? Try it and see. All right, here it is. IF stream input. So input file stream input. Input's our variable. And input file stream is our declaration, right? So that's a data type, and this is our variable. So we're declaring it as an input file stream variable, and this is the variable, okay? All right, open a file for input called student.txt. So open a file for input called student.txt. Give you a second. You need to try it. It's input.open, parentheses, quote, student.txt, close quote, close parentheses, semicolon. So now we've opened our output file up here, and we've opened our input file here. Okay, ensure the input file was found. So do you know the code you need to use to make sure that the input file that has your data in it is found? Try it and see. See if you can remember that coding that I introduced to you in one of the lessons in this chapter. It's an if statement, starts with an if statement, if parentheses, not input dot is underscore open, two parentheses, open and close, and then the final closing parentheses. Okay, that's how you start. It's an if statement. So now what? If not input is open, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to cout input file not found. Okay, so this code determines if the input file was found. If not, then the code below will trigger. So if it can't find your input file, then it'll cout input file not found. All right, here's a system pause. We don't have to have that, but you might want it. And then a return 0. Okay, that's for our, this makes this stall the program so you can see the error. So that's why this is here. You don't want your program to continue if you can't find your input file. So this stops it. All right, now here we're declaring some variables to do the actual program, where they're all going to be string variables: first name, last name, T number, and the major of that student. Okay, so cin and input, because we defined input, if I can find it here, that's output, here it is. Input file stream input, we defined this as an input file. So cin and input are the same, they do the same kind of work. Only cin gets the data from the keyboard, input gets the data from a file. Okay? It lets you modify this program. Let's modify this program so that we will read in an unknown number of records from our input file. So here we go. While not input into file. So that lets us have any number of records. We can just loop that until it gets to the end of the file, right? We're going to input from the file their first name, their last name, their T number. We have an input ignore because this is the same as cin, which means it has that little next line character included with it. So we're saying ignore that new line character and then use getLine to input the major, because you know majors might have more than one word, like computer science. That's 2 words for the major. All right, so we're inputting. Now notice, here's my input. My input file was called student.txt, and if I look at it, I have to have first name, last name, T number, and their major in the same order that I read it in my program. So I have to read it in that order. It'll read first name first, then it'll read last name next, and then it'll read T number, and then it'll get line. So that meant when I created this Notepad document, TXT file, I had to put first name first, last name next, the T number, and then their major. I had to put it in that same order. Otherwise, you might have a lot of issues, okay? Especially when you start outputting. Okay, and then after we read the information, we're going to see out their first name, and then here's the variable that holds the first name. See out last name is, and here's their last name. See out their major that they chose. Major is the variable that holds that. And then their T number is, and then TNUM is the variable that holds that. That all goes with see out, which means it goes to the screen. This is the exact same thing, only we used output, which is our output file, and it has the exact same information and goes to output. And then whenever you're finished with a file, you have to close it. So you always have to have input.close. So there's my variable, input variable, right? Dot close, and here's my other variable for output, output.close. That closes those files, okay? So if I were to build, okay, I shouldn't have any errors because I tested it earlier just to make sure that I didn't make any mistakes. Yeah. All right, so then now we're going to debug it without. Here we go, and here they are. First name Silly, last name Sally, computer science, and a T number, etc. Okay, notice how we could rearrange it and make it look different and make it look nice. This is what is on the screen, right? This is to the screen. But I also created a file. So if I were to go in this folder right here and look, the file was called info.txt, and I have already opened that. So if I open it here they are in the file. Okay? All right, so that is the end of our program, and I hope it was helpful review, and there will be a couple more review items before you actually are given the exam. See you next time.